You go and do step 1 of the plan, and if the feedback you get tells you that step 2 is wrong, you got to throw the plan out and start again anyway. So acting in a catalytic way lights up the system, gives you feedback, and tells you what's possible to do next. Back to Apollo Bay and regional tourism and seafood, the first catalyst that they really put into that system was go talk to the fishers and say, you know what, would you hang around on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and be part of the festival for a change? Would you leave your boats? Would you clean up your boats and allow people to come and check them out? Could we pull one out of the water and put it and make it the stage for the bands to play on? All that sort of stuff, little short, sharp catalysts. If the fishers had said, no, we're not doing that, then what you do next has to change. When they said, yes, we're doing that, then you get on to, well, what else is possible? Can we make sure we supply the local co-op with all of our local produce for the festival? Sure, we can do that. Can you make sure we get a fair price for it? Yep, that's organized. On to the next. Strategy in action. Each action that you take in the wake of the previous action based on the feedback that you get, with a view of where you're going, but not a fixed plan as to how you're going to get there. Because the time that you've spent planning, you could be in action creating value. If you know how to drive a car, you do this. If you responded in some way to the pandemic, you've done this. If you play a sport, you know how to do this. We don't do this stuff to fix plans. It's about capability aligned to conditions to generate value in a continuous frame of opportunity risk. If you drive a car to a fixed plan, you'll end up in an accident pretty quickly. It's a really dynamic process that we completely take for granted. And there's really complex capabilities required to have a safe journey from point A to point B. We take all of that for granted as well. And it's done very dynamically, in action, in a way that becomes almost subconscious when we learn to drive really well. The key to this is alignment. Inside conditions, are we aligned in terms of the opportunities and risks that we're focused on, the capabilities that we're deploying, the value that we're seeking to generate, and the actions that we're taking? When we're not aligned, quick question. I would suggest some of you may use this subconsciously, but any of you use this unconsciously already? When I talk about strategy and action, do you think you might already use this in some way in what you do? All right, we're getting pretty consistent numbers on the polling, so I'm going to push on. What I was about to say is, what happens when we get misalignment? That's when we experience disruption. Our value generation is out of sync with conditions. We haven't understood the opportunities and the risks. We don't have the right capabilities. We haven't taken the right action, or we haven't listened to the feedback when we planned the next action. My favorite thing about this work, and I've been doing this work for 12 plus years now, is that when something doesn't go according to plan, the framework allows you to very quickly interrogate and reset. So if you're on a pathway, your strategy in action, and you get surprised, you just really quickly check the framework. Did we miss something in the conditions? Did we not understand the opportunities and the risks? Not have the correct capability? Is the value that we were seeking to generate not valued in the world anymore? Is it not valuable? Did we take the wrong action? And reset in real time to get on to the next thing. You do this as often as is required, not by how you want to behave, but how the conditions tell you need to be behaving. This is the biggest mental jump for people to make, but I've just done all the work. Yet you have, and the conditions have changed, so you need to do it again. Otherwise, you're going to push yourself into managed adaptive decline, because you're going to hang on to something because you did the work, not because it's the right thing to be doing. This is not for everyone. I won't belabor the point, but there is something around a mindset to be, out ahead of change and thinking, not sticking our heads in the sand. There's lots of examples, particularly around retreating to the past and unrealistic options as simple solutions. I'll give you a couple of phrases just to reinforce the point. Make America great again, retreat to the past, build a wall, really simple solution to a highly complex global migration challenge. Stop the boats, same thing. We're very good sometimes at making really complex stuff appear simple and not dealing with the reality that sits around that, putting our heads in the sand. That, again, I've said before, but that does lead to managed adaptive decline or accelerate it if we're already in it. And what we're thinking about is how do we really think ahead, embrace change, leverage disruption, and generate sustainable value. It's the change ahead of change mindset that we're looking for. So the last poll for today, and then we just got a little bit to close out in the last 5 minutes. Do you already have a strategy focused on leveraging disruption in the COVID economy? And are the actions that you're taking now designed to do that?
While people are doing the poll, David, Lisa had a question saying, have we got leverage, disruption, exhaustion happening?
I think we have being disrupted exhaustion happening. My view would be that if we are really of a leveraging disruption mindset and we've got the skills to make it happen and we're working in networks, then yes, it can be tiring because it's hard work. But hopefully it's also energizing because we are building momentum and finding a way forward and taking responsibility for what's possible. What I find exhausting is knowing what is possible, seeing what some of the ways forward could be, and not being able to be on that path because I don't have the ability to make those decisions. Say, when I've been in large organizations, you want to shake people and say, this is the way we need to be going. Can't you see what's coming 3 years from now? And they just go, no, we've got to do it the way we've always done it. That's the bit I find exhausting, but I think we're all exhausted from being disoriented and uncertain for 6-7 months now. That's an exhausting space to be. But hopefully we can collectively support each other, starting with Are You OK Day, to take and find together a way forward. But I won't for a minute diminish that people will be feeling exhausted because that's reality. I'm going to skip through a couple of slides and just get to the final couple of points in terms of towards resilience. So it's from catalytic conversation to catalytic action. What can we do to get into action? Collectively, there's a conscious choice to make. Where do you want to be? The decisions you make now, the actions you take now are critical to a resilient future. What we know is that there's a lot of an innovator, early adopter mindset and early majority mindset to this way of thinking. This is next practice. It's not the way the world thinks about being in action, but it's where we can see real possibility. And there are lots who use this way of thinking, even if they don't use the same words. This is what we're looking for. We hope you're in this mindset and in this space as well. This is how we'll get past the exhaustion together and create a resilient future for our region, for our state, for our nation in a more powerful way. Think about behaving like a flock of birds. We all can tune and move as one as the conditions change. Again, you do this as often as is required, and it can be exhausting when you've done a lot of it and then the conditions change and you have to change too. And my final point before I throw back to our host, and I will skip a couple of slides, is think about activating.
You just dropped your dot. What does that mean?
Naomi, could you go on mute, please?
Sorry.
Who can you touch? Dare I say it, to get the virus of change flowing. We know how exponential has worked with COVID-19. If each one of us were able to touch 2 people and they were able to touch 2 more and 2 more and so on, the exponential change that we could bring into the system in terms of really starting to leverage disruption, I think becomes incredibly powerful. So I'm going to leave it there, skip these quickly. Sorry, I'll go to next steps. So we've already flagged there's some workshops coming up. We'll circulate information about how to register for those workshops, what we'll be covering in those workshops. If you can't attend the workshops, remember to think strategy and action. Always look to conditions, opportunity, risk, and build and activate your network. And when the conditions change, we have to change whether we like it or not. So final thoughts over to Elena and Catherine, just as our hosts and sponsors today. Just a thank you from me to both of you and to your team and to Jess. But Elena, over to you to close us out.
Fantastic. What a brilliant presentation. I'm going to share this far and wide, and it's actually absolutely resonated with me. It actually ties in with something that I want to do now, which is to launch something for Startup Shakeup. So for those that don't know me, I'm chair of Startup Shakeup and I work for Charles State University in Wangaratta. We have an innovation ecosystem that's happening across the region that we have been building now for 2 years, and we're supported by 5 local councils and 3 education organisations. We're about connecting people, bringing in new knowledge like this, creating opportunities for discussion. So we support startups, those founders who are starting from scratch. We support shake-ups, those businesses who are deciding they need to do things differently. And we support innovators. And after conversations with them, people have been telling us they need particular skills and particular thoughts at particular times. So we've created something we're calling the Regional Skills Network, which is about making advice and skills available when and where you need it. So if you have a skill that you think others could find useful, then go to the Startup Shakeup website and log an expression of interest to be an advisor. We'll have a discovery conversation with you, and then we'll explain what's involved and get you enrolled. If you're a startup or a shake-up who has a burning question, but you don't really know where to go next, then go to the website and complete the EOI. We'll work with you to identify your key questions and we'll match you. That might be in a one-to-one conversation, it might be in a small group, or it might be in a brainstorming session. Whatever it is, it'll be designed to help you find out what you need to know next to make progress. So to come back to the workshops as a follow-up today, we have had a couple of people asking questions that we haven't had time to address today. We will address those. We'll be sending everybody an email after in the next few days detailing what the follow-up workshops are. Absolutely, the tourism industry, please get involved in the wine industry. It makes most sense if a couple of people from each organisation or who works closely together get involved so that you've got somebody else to bounce your ideas off. And like I say, this is the beginning of a conversation. David, it's been an amazing presentation. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Well, thank you to everyone who joined in, and thanks for some fabulous questions and great feedback. Always much more enjoyable when people get stuck into thinking about what is possible and pushing back and questioning all that. So thanks to the group, thanks to you, Elena and Catherine and Jess, for all your support in getting this up, but particularly thanks to the group for coming along today and engaging and participating.
And we'll talk to you all again soon.
Terrific.
Thanks, Elena.
Thanks.
Bye.